Yo, what is up YouTube? Welcome back to my channel, Book Reviews with Moises. So, for the book that we are going to be reviewing today, we're going to be reviewing The Mind is Flat, a book in psychology and science. Usually every book that I get, I love to go to my local Barnes & Noble and browse and, just see what book catches my eye and my attention. What is this book about? And one of the biggest main ideas of this book kind of says it in the name. The mind is flat. This book provides a sense of how shallow the mind can be, how the mind is capable of creating fiction on the spot. I could be in this very spot creating imaginative stories, fiction, something that isn't true, a prediction, an assumption, judgment. The mind is more than capable of creating fiction through story. So guys, let's take a look at what's inside the book. So there's actually part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is more on a scientifical level and part 2 is more on the psychological level. Part 1, the illusion of mental depth. 1, the power of invention. 2, the feeling of reality. 3, anatomy of a hoax. 4, the inconstant imagination. 5, inventing feelings. 6, manufacturing choice. Part 2, the improvised mind, the cycle of thought. 8, the narrow channel of consciousness. 9, the myth of unconscious thought. 10, the boundary of consciousness. 11, precedents, not principles. 12, the secret of intelligence. And an epilogue, reinventing ourselves. Alright guys, so what do I like the most about this book? My favorite part about this book is the main idea that I had referred to earlier. And that main idea was basically how the mind is more than capable of creating stories that are essentially fiction. It's almost not real. And I've heard this time and time again. The subconscious doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. Just think of the general human. How many stories of fiction is the general human creating on a daily basis? How many of those stories are true? This book really provided me a sense of psychological framework that I applied to my sense of mindfulness. I'm able to acknowledge the voice and what the voice creates inside the mind. And most of the time, the voice creates fiction. Whether it's an assumption, a prediction, judgment, the mind is flat. The mind is more than capable of creating feelings, thought processes, moods, emotions, moment by moment. Thoughts are created moment by moment. All these thoughts come and go. Which one of these thoughts are true? Which one of these thoughts are fiction? Alright guys, so my favorite chapters. Inventing feelings. Like we said earlier, the mind is more than capable of creating thought process, fiction, stories, moment by moment. Moment by moment, we're creating new thoughts, we're creating new stories, we're creating new judgment, assumptions, predictions. We're more than capable of inventing feelings. I'm more than convinced that each individual on this planet is more than capable of creating their reality. I'm almost convinced that we're more than capable of inventing feelings. But I want to say that most of the time, I'm the one creating those emotions through thought process, through stimulus. That chapter really showcases the idea of how we really invent our emotions. I can't speak for everybody, but for me as the individual, I'm more than capable of creating feelings. I can create emotion. For my next favorite chapter, manufacturing choice. This whole idea of manufacturing choice, guys, is very not only important but significant. How we have the power to manufacture choice. We have the power to choose whether we want to choose to be happy or whether we want to choose to be sad. Whether we want to choose to think a specific way or whether we choose to act a specific way. Each individual has the power to manufacture choice. And in this chapter, it explains how we can do that. But yeah, guys, those are definitely my 2 favorite chapters. It really kind of opened up perspective on a psychological level for me. For the rest of the book, it's a lot of science. So who should read this book? I recommend this book to any kind of academic researcher, anybody who's studying psychology. I don't really recommend this to anyone who is just like likes to read. I feel like this is more of like a research book, almost in a sense a theory, which makes sense to my perception. Anybody that likes psychology, I highly recommend this book. The mind is very improvised, whether it's thought process, behavior, emotions, mood. We create all of that moment by moment. Are you interested in reading this book? Let me know in the comment section down below. And tune in for next time with Book Reviews with Moises.